Brandi, we got you. We're so glad to see you.
Yes, happy to be here.
Dana says she first heard about you in 2016. Now, I've heard about you more recently, but I've done some digging into your story. And
Mm.
there's a painful part of your story. In fact, when we reached out to you and said, would you be on Grounded? You said, I will, but there are parts of my story that are very offensive. Are you sure you want to have me on? So we thought about that and prayed about that, and we definitely still did. But why was your name a headline throughout your area back those several years ago?
So actually it's kind of interesting to think it wasn't just my name in the headlines in my area,
Mm.
that it was worldwide.
Mm.
Um, and then thinking about coming on your podcast that reaches worldwide, that was an interesting prayer point that God led me through as I prepared for this. But
Mm.
um, back in 2015, I was the on many headlines because I was finally revealed as having faked cancer for about a 2 years time
Wow.
of lying about that. And the reason why it definitely hit headlines and world news was I was also Miss Pennsylvania US International at the time,
Mm.
which was an interesting twist to this story.
Yeah. You faked cancer and you used that fake diagnosis to raise funds and to really reach towards people's sense of charity and goodness. How much money did you raise?
um, it was a little over 34,000 that
Wow.
was raised. Interestingly enough, the lie going on was not actually to raise the money. That just was a very unfortunate part of people with kind hearts that God gave them,
Mm.
trying to help this situation that they thought I was in. And I just didn't know how to stop that part without revealing the truth. And I wasn't ready to do
Mm.
that yet.
So what motivated you to fake that cancer diagnosis if it wasn't to raise funds?
Um, Honestly, it was my mom and dad. I didn't feel that I had received the love and attention from them that I should have.
Mm.
And at this point, I mean, I was almost 21 years old when I started the lie, and um, as I was actually praying with God yesterday about this, He revealed to me, when we want something in life, we're ready to like put down our life for it, and it was,
Mm.
you know what? Yeah, I'll go full force just to receive some love and attention and have it
Mm.
on my terms,
Yeah.
I guess. But
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's an extreme example with extreme
mhm.
actions, but I think you are speaking to the heart of everybody that doesn't know Christ. I came to Christ at 15 and remember the ache feeling as big as the Grand Canyon for someone to love me, accept me, acknowledge that I had value. So I think we could, if we're honest, we could all realize that we're capable of such things. I did read a lot of the news stories. You went so far as to have family members drive you to the hospital for supposedly for treatments, and then you'd go to another part of the hospital and this was elaborate, but eventually that house of cards came crashing down. What were the
Mhm.
consequences in your life of that scam being exposed?
Um, I mean, vast uh, as you can imagine.
Mm.
Many friendships were broken. I mean, the immediate consequences was it all happened in one day for me. I got a
Mm.
call from the Rockview police barracks, and they said my name was up in an investigation. Could I come down for questioning? Um,
Mm.
I called my dad
What can you
afterwards to
describe that moment? What happened in your mind, your heart, your body as you heard those words?
Um, I didn't realize the investigation was on me.
Mm.
I honestly, I had thought that it was on maybe a different family member of
Mm.
mine, and so it just was weird. So I called my dad, and he was the one that said, "Well, the investigation's on you, Brandy. Somebody thought that you're faking, um,
Wow.
and so they have to investigate that." And at that
Mm,
point was when my world just kind of zeroed into one point, and it was like, "Okay, Brandy, you have two choices here. What are you going to do?"
mm,
And I went to the police barracks later that afternoon. So,
wow.
and so the immediate consequence was going to Center County Correctional Facility.
Mm,
On the way there, having to stop at the magistrate office where the media was already there, pushing
wow.
cameras. And then I think one of the hardest consequences was, in jail, you get your one phone call when
Mm,
you first get there. And I called my dad again, and he was bawling on the other side of the phone. And that was
mm,
probably the hardest consequence that I had walked through in the entire process.
yeah, I can imagine. Okay, that is heavy. You're right. That's uncomfortable. And I could see why you use the word offensive, because certainly it can be described as that. But I want to get to the good stuff. I want to get to the pivot because in the midst of that storm, you met Jesus. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had always had an awareness of Jesus growing up. I actually have wanted so badly to be the perfect little Christian girl. I was a model citizen for a long time, but the without the relationship with Jesus, that stuff usually falls apart at some point.
Mm,
And so when I get to the jail, it was such a dark time for about the first 10-ish days where it did feel like God had abandoned me or left. And I just didn't quite
mm,
understand why, because I had heard his voice 6 months prior saying, "Tell the truth, Brandy."
mm,
And I was not ready to then. And and so I just wasn't sure why, when the truth came out, I felt so alone. And the enemy rushed into that place to say,
of course.
sure, salvation means, you prayed the prayer and you get to go to heaven, and, you're saved and all that. But do you really think that you're going to heaven now? And like all of that
Mm,
shame just coming in and the taunting. But it was about 10 days in that I actually have it here with me. Somebody, I still don't know who, so I just say it's my God's Bible, sent
mm.
me this Bible. And
In
I
the
didn't
mail?
even, yeah, yeah. So that's
Wow.
the only way that you can receive any books, magazines, correspondence
Okay.
is through the mail system. And I received that one night at mail call, and I took it back up to my cell, and I wasn't even reading in a scripture. I was in the back of it. There's like this like help section of like how to read the Bible in a year, something like that. And just in a moment, the whole cell filled with this amber color and a peace, and it felt like it was a hug that filled the room. And
Mm,
I didn't hear God audibly this time, but in my soul had heard him say, "We're going to do this together now. I love
mm,
you." And nothing else mattered in that moment. And it was like, oh my gosh, like you're the one that's here during this time. Um, and we're going to do this. Like you're not leaving me
wow.
alone. And you care enough to be in jail with me. The God of the universe cares to be in
Mm.
this cell with me right now. Um,
Oh,
and, uh, and as we walk out of it. So it meant a lot
so
to me.
beautiful. So beautiful, Brandy. And grounded sisters, as you're listening, I hope the spirit takes you right back to your moment. Maybe you weren't in a cell, but that moment where everything seemed dark, you felt lost, and the Lord met you there and transformed you. And I'm so grateful for Brandy's honesty to help us remember the before because the after can be so profound. I love that somebody sent you a Bible in the mail, Brandy. Was there anybody who came and shared Christ with you face to face during that season?
So Something that I loved about Center County Correctional Facility, I'll be honest, I loved jail. I loved
Mm,
every bit of walking through that part. But um, no, at Center County pre-COVID, there it felt like you could honestly go to church at any day of the week. There
wow.
were pastors that came in on Sundays on a rotating basis. There were folks that came in on Fridays and like Thursday evenings. So I was getting fed the word by many folks, and they're in jail. They're always going to take the opportunity to offer the chance to accept Jesus, share the gospel, and accept Jesus into
Mm,
your life. Um, and so I can't say like anybody one on one shared it with me. I will say my first church service that I got to go to at Center County was with Jonathan Weibel, and he deconstructed my faith
mm.
in a way that God could, rebuild it and it with a relationship with me. And so Jonathan's sermon was on the things that God can't do, and that blew
I
my
know
mind. I
that
was like, you
sermon
can't.
well. I've heard Jonathan
Ah,
deliver that sermon. You can tell us the 3
it
points so good. This is the gospel.
it like broke me apart and
Mm,
in such good ways. But yeah, just the things that God can't do or else he would cease to be God. And the main point being, or my two main points, because I had experienced being lied to, or like the whole premise of lying was not receiving the love that I needed. And
mm,
two of the things that God can't do are lie and not love. God is love, so
mhm,
if he doesn't love, he ceases to be God. And oh, that's still just something that like fills my heart to the fullest. And I'm
mm.
so thankful for Jonathan's sermon that day.
If that name rings a bell, Jonathan's been on Grounded before during COVID, and he also was Dana's pastor for many years. And I've heard that message through things God can't do. He can't lie, he can't not love, and he can't let you into heaven without Jesus. And
Mhm.
so that's the gospel, which is that he loves you fiercely. Everything he said is true. Everything in that Bible you were holding up, Brandy, is true. But you need Jesus to experience that love. Beautiful testimony, Brandy. Where are you today? I know you're not perfect and you're going to probably acknowledge that, but how has God transformed your life?
Yes, definitely not perfect. I many times am walking through the day and I'm just like, oh, I should have done that differently or things like that. But I've been home for we actually just celebrated 6 years on April
Wow.
3rd this year. Um, and since then, I've been working for a Calvary Church in the State College area, and I've been able to work with Penn State students, mentoring them, and yeah, working one on one with them and going onto campus and evangelizing. If you really are worried about evangelizing, go to a college campus and
Yeah.
just wait to be judged.
Mm,
But it is so amazing when you do get to like run into a student who's ready and wants to hear,
yeah.
and just keep praying for that. And then I've recently transitioned into our outreach team. So I'm our community impact assistant, running a home repair program with the county partnership, and kind of doing all sorts of fun stuff, evangelism based through this. So anything from making baskets and taking to our low income housing families, or uh, we have pool parties coming up, our Easter egg hunt, those types of things. That's the
Right.
outreach team. And then I also get to be our wedding coordinator at Calvary, so
Mm.
I get to help people get married all summer long usually, which
And
is
you're a
amazing.
newlywed. You've only been
Yes.
married, what'd you tell us, a month?
Yeah, just a little over, maybe a month and a half now. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love mess into message. I love the redemption that the Lord continues to bring in your life. I love that you now have a heart for the lost because you know that feeling of being lost. So grateful for your story, Brandy. Thanks for being on Grounded. You oozed Jesus just like I hoped you would.
Thank you. And if I may, just quickly, even thinking having a new name and being married, for folks who are worried about sharing your testimony, when
Mm,
I was introduced as Brandi Yocum. So that's a whole other family's name now attached to this story. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even ask them if they're okay. That
mm,
now the Yocum name was attached to this story. But how amazing Christ is just to keep including people in his work and spreading that.
amen.
Um, and so don't be worried. God's got you, and he wants to share the
Amen.
story that he's worked on you with.
Amen. What a beautiful place to land this interview. I'm so thankful for your redemption story, and I'm so thankful for your encouragement to tell our stories, even though all of them are uncomfortable at points and can be offensive. So thank you so much. Portia, I'm going to turn it over to you.